What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment, and today on the 1st and 15th, man, got something exciting and special because I wanted to talk about one of those movies that people often reference but doesn't get a lot of attention, and that's one of the things I like to do here on the 1st and 15th. Bring things that need more attention that don't often get it, and today's topic is The King of New York. Now, this movie came out in 1990. It was a limited release domestically, September of 1990. It was written by Nicholas St. John and directed by Abel Ferrara. And now it came out after House Party, which to me is of the quote unquote modern, or the as rap really exploded into the mainstream. House Party kind of was the line in the sand, and then everything kind of comes after that because the movies before that, whereas rap was, expanding and finding its footing. And I think House Party really was the first wave of films that really showed what rap was going to be and what it had the potential to become. And King of New York, I would say, in a lot of ways, is second because it came before New Jack City and it came before Boys in the Hood. And it's a very important film on many, many, many levels, which is why I want to talk about it here on the 1st and 15th. First up, it stars Christopher Walken as Frank White. He's a drug kingpin who is released from prison, and he seeks to take total control of all the criminal underworld to give back to the community. Notably, he wants to refurbish, revamp, fix the hospital in his old neighborhood because he sees things that have changed since he's been incarcerated. Christopher Walken gives a remarkable performance as Frank White, very powerful, very sobering, and you've heard a lot of these, a lot of his speeches, monologues and sayings on a lot of rap albums over the years, some of which we're going to get to. But beyond Christopher Walken's role, we have a lot of very notable things on the acting front. It's early roles for Lawrence Fishburne, for Wesley Snipes, Giancarlo Esposito, Steve Buscemi, Teresa Randall, Roger Guinevere Smith, and David Caruso, among a few others. So this film it's set in New York in the streets, so it's going on and what's going on in the late 80s. The film comes out in 1990. So it's kind of documenting this drug dealing culture that's going on in the hood in New York, hence the title, and Frank White's role in it. And he has Lawrence Fishburne is like the head of his gang, his crew that serves under him and works for him. But, this film to me is very important because it solidifies something important in rap, which is this idea of this Frank White character. And of course, most notably, Biggie was the one who really took on and referenced Frank White on a regular basis, most notably on The What, his collaboration with the Method Man from Ready to Die. He references Frank White on there. And then in the Tupac song Runnin' that came out 10 years later as part of the Resurrection, so it's a posthumous song collaboration, redoes the Runnin' song from Tupac that Easy Mo Bee had originally done. Eminem produced this new version, which has Biggie on it, and Biggie also references Frank White on there. But Jadakiss, to show Biggie wasn't alone, Jadakiss also references some of Frank White's dialogue on We Gonna Make It, from Kiss the Game Goodbye, talking about come to the Plaza Hotel and I might have a job for you. That's one of Frank White's famous lines in King of New York. So we have Biggie, we have Jadakiss, Biggie multiple times referencing Frank White and this idea, Biggie calling himself the Black Frank White. So clearly this idea of this character, this drug dealer slash kind of mafia drug lord in the hood guy that had these noble intentions as he was helping to destroy the community simultaneously, resonated with a lot of rap fans and led its way into the Bad Boy crew in particular. But it goes a lot deeper than that because King of New York features music from Schoolie D. And in the film, you can see his Am I Black Enough For You song is used. You can also see the Saturday Night song is used, and these are used and played and featured heavily and prominently throughout King of New York, as are other rap songs. So if we go deeper, perhaps coincidentally, perhaps not, Biggie then covered Schoolie D's breakthrough song, PSK, What Does It Mean, on his Life After Death album with the Big interlude. So that came out in 97, of course, sadly, right after Biggie was killed. But, does this have a direct link to King of New York? Is it a coincidence? Don't know. Sadly, I didn't get to ask Biggie, and I don't know that he's ever talked about it, other than I did talk to Derek D. Angeletti, and he just said that Biggie loved Schoolie D, and that's why they did the Big interlude. So that's that part of it. But either way, Schoolie D also did the song King of New York with the title song, not only for the soundtrack for King of New York, but the same song and video. And he made the video for it features a lot of clips, as of course a lot of the movies, when videos were more prominent and more essential to selling product and promoting things. The video for Schoolie D's King of New York features a lot of footage from the film interspersed with Schoolie D performing. He's performing with Lawrence Fishburne, and they did the video. And this is an amazing turn of events because, as people may know from watching my videos or seeing me on interviews, Schoolie D's my favorite artist, and I think one of the most important rappers in rap history. And Schoolie D actually didn't want his music. He told me that Abel, the director, had been calling him and he was hanging up on him, and he didn't want to be involved in film because he was busy doing his music. Am I Black Enough For You had just come out, so he was like still in the mix as far as being on Jive Records and still having great success with all that. So he didn't understand or appreciate or want to be involved with this Abel dude that kept calling him about putting his music in some movies. But then Schoolie told me that Abel invited him to a private screening to watch King of New York, and without Schoolie's knowledge or permission, he had put in Saturday Night and Am I Black Enough For You into King of New York. And that's where Schoolie kind of had an epiphany and a change of perspective, like, oh, my music does work well in film. My music can provide some power and help set the scene into these films. And so, that really changed Schoolie's mind and, led to a lot of things I'm about to talk about. But as far as King of New York itself, later, I didn't see King of New York right when it came out. As I said at the beginning of the video, it came out in a limited release. New York was among the places, but later I found out that King of New York played at the Cannes Film Festival, the New York Film Festival, the BFI London Film Festival, the Brussels International Film Festival, among many, many others. And it was released in several countries throughout the world, France, Germany, Sweden among them. So even though King of New York was an independent film and had limited release in the United States, at the same time, it was getting tremendous exposure and play throughout the rest of the world. And back then, of course, I wasn't old enough to drive. I wasn't old enough to be able to just do what I wanted to do yet. And it was an R-rated movie, so I was underage. So it was all these different things. I wasn't able to see it right away. So by the time I saw it, I guess because of when I saw it and being young, I didn't understand or appreciate at the time that it had come out actually before New Jack City, before Boys in the Hood. And it was kind of a similar ilk to those type of stories. And like I said, it gave Lawrence Fishburne a lot of screen time and Wesley Snipes one of his first early prominent roles. So that was one aspect of it. But when I did realize about King of New York through the music video and Schoolie D being my favorite artist, that's when I started being like, oh man, I got to find out what I can about this King of New York film. And then getting to know Schoolie and talking to him and, just following his career as much as I could and hanging out with him over the years in Philadelphia, in LA, just talking to him a bunch of times. You started to see these other things going on, like Signifying Rapper was played in Abel Ferrara's Bad Lieutenant film, and Schoolie did scoring work, composition for a lot of films, which is why after Schoolie did King of New York and How a Black Man Feels album on Capitol Records, Schoolie kind of focused on doing a lot of the film stuff and the composing. So he did stuff with The Addiction, and Abel cast Fredro Starr in there. He had The Funeral. Schoolie did music in that. He also did Our Xmas, which featured Ice-T, of course, a friend of Unique Access and myself. And Abel was using, incorporating, and working with rappers on a regular basis. And then, of course, had this long-standing relationship with Schoolie D, using him to compose and help score his films. And all this work stems from King of New York, which to me is why it's such an important film. It had Biggie influenced, it had Jadakiss influenced, it had Schoolie D given the opportunity to work at Capitol Records. Schoolie D got the chance to work on all these films that then include Fred Star, that then include Ice-T. And of course, we don't know, but maybe or maybe not Abel Ferrara, the director who employed these actors who were rappers, maybe he wouldn't have thought about it if Schoolie never decided to work with him or didn't give him a chance to use his music in King of New York. So it's a lot of interesting what ifs and things to consider surrounding King of New York and surrounding the work and the feel of that movie. And of course, a lot of the Frank White dialogue of a nickel bag gets sold in the park, I want in. It's just a lot of infamous, famous, and memorable parts of that film. And that's why I want to talk about it on 1st and 15th, because I think it's one of those noteworthy films that seldom gets discussed, but has had an immense impact on rap, as we see by some of the biggest artists referencing, incorporating, and talking about this film directly. And of course, there are other references that I didn't cite, but I wanted to highlight some of the main ones. So as always, hit us up in the comment section. Let us know what you think about this episode on the 1st to 15th. While you're down there, please subscribe if you haven't already. That helps us build up the numbers and enables us to keep growing and showing here on Unique Access Entertainment. You can also join, become a member to the channel, 3 different tiers, ways you could support us that way. And as always, tell a friend, please, to subscribe to Unique Access Entertainment so we can get to that #1 spot in the game, which is what we're trying to get to, so we can keep coming to you more and more with bigger and better interviews. As always, I'm Soren Baker. Check us out the 1st and 15th, and we appreciate your support. King of New York. Shout out Schoolie D, Abel Ferrara.